Hi, everybody. I'm Yasmin Al-Shawa, and I'm your host for the Voices for Change Film Club interview series. And today we're interviewing the Throwing Shades filmmaker, Catie Gudiño. She is one of the 5 filmmakers in 2018 who participated in our Girls Voices Now program. And they came out with this incredible film called Throwing Shades. It shines light on the underground drag community in Los Angeles. So today we're going to be speaking to Catie about all the behind the scenes of creating this film, where the story came from, and how important it is to really speak about these subjects, that you speak a lot about colorism and queerness and the queer community and drag community. And so I'm really excited to get into that. Thank you so much for being on with us, Catie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
So Catie, you are one of the 5 filmmakers of Throwing Shades. Your film is incredible. It's been in several film festivals. I'd love to know how you came up with this incredible storyline, and B, sort of the behind the scenes info of like how you were able to carry it out in just 4 weeks.
Between me and the 4 other girls, we were kind of just throwing it out there, like brainstorming who we would have access to within, because we needed to get these interview questions to the people that we were going to be having in our film, like within a week. So it was really just about like accessibility. And I just happened to throw it out there that I worked at my community college on an annual drag with my English professor, and her brother is a drag queen who lived like 15 minutes away, was going to be available within the times that we'd be shooting. And then I think Layla also mentioned that she had a drag queen friend who was fairly close and would also be available. We ended up finding a very similar like narrative thread between the 2 subjects. They're both drag queens from the underground drag community. They both are working part-time jobs. They're like trying to go to school, they're trying to make it, and they're also dealing with clubs that don't want to book them, even though they have the talent. And that's just something that you see a lot, even on mainstream platforms like RuPaul's Drag Race. There's going to be a lot of Black and brown drag queens who have the talent, who majority of people on social media are going to be like using their images, their influence, their style, but they also, like, the numbers don't lie. They will typically have less followers than the white queens. So we were like, okay, if this is like a issue in the mainstream platform, like what's going on with the underground drag queens who aren't on this public platform? And I think that's really where we came up with it. And it just, I think within a day, we had amazing interview questions. One of the girls mentioned, like, I don't think I know enough about this topic to be making a documentary about it. And I was like, well, this is like the perfect time to learn. The best thing about documentary filmmaking is that the cheapest asset you have is like research. Like you can just go and research. And that's what we did. We researched, we got numbers, we got examples, and we found 2 very compelling narratives that fit in and kind of worked well with each other. And I think bolstered one another's stories really well. It just kind of fell into place within 4 weeks somehow. I have no idea, but it worked.
Wow. So you get this story, and you're talking about really understanding a community so that you can tell a story the best way possible, right? Did you personally have a relationship to that community beforehand? I know you mentioned that you knew somebody, but like, did it go deeper than that?
Growing up in the digital age, it was like you really found your community like online. I think I was like in middle school coming to like consciousness of my queerness. You don't really find a community in like your physical space. Like, yeah, obviously there's queer people like in middle school, but no one's like out about it. I definitely found my community online and just watching Drag Race. In retrospect, I really feel like I gained all my sensibilities from drag artists. Like everything that I love in life is like something I learned from them. Like, for example, like fashion and makeup, like gender expression in general is very important to me. It was through drag queens that I like learned my love for that. And like film as well. I've watched so many queer films because I got recommendations from not even just drag queens, but just queer people online. That was just very monumental for my identity and self-actualization coming into my teens, which is a very like monumental time in life. So it definitely is deeper. And I feel like I owe this community like everything, you know, because they are who taught me that like my identity isn't this rigid structure, that it can be bendable, malleable. So it just felt right to honor them in some type of way.
So this month we're celebrating Pride,
Mhm.
right? We're in the month of June and we're celebrating Pride. Do you feel like you need to really identify as queer to really like mesh with and celebrate the community?
I don't think you have to be a part of the community to identify or just feel welcomed within that community, because everything about that community really is like reiterating the fact that there are these structures like gender and sexuality and like gender roles in general that we've been subscribed to for so long. It really is drag that satirizes like these ideas that we like subscribe to and we don't really know why we subscribe to. And I think it can be empowering for literally anyone to watch these people and like perform and be like, wow, like I don't have to be this like machismo masculine person. Like I can have other facets to my identity. Drag really just is like a catalyst to that, I feel like, and it always has been. So yeah, I think anyone can identify with this community and show their respect and see how what they're doing, their art really is opening them up to other realities that they can inhabit that they might not have known they could have beforehand because of like heteronormativity and all these gender roles that we constantly feel the need to adhere to.
What a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for that. So going back to the film, tell us about the process of the filmmaking in 4 weeks.
So I think it was the first week we like did like education, like just learning about the history of documentary filmmaking. We learned about the camera work, all that stuff. And then we needed to start getting those interview questions like written out, doing our research. And I think within the second week, we had reached out to Jean and Nubia. We found out their schedule, if it was going to work, and it was like everything was like working. And for me, I feel like content really helps you come to terms with what the style and tone of a film will be. And like although it is like social impact documentary, it still is through like a cinematic mode, which I think like it's controversial to some people, but I still believe that you need it to be entertaining. And once it's entertaining, like the political like implications come through so much clearer. So I think it was me that I was like going through like a hyperfixation with like experimental film, like avant-garde films. And I was like, we should do like an experimental like mode in some way. And the content kind of just like worked so well. Like you're working with these artists who are like non-conventional artists. Like it only makes sense to make a non-conventional film. Like a lot of this process was improvisation, having ideas and just kind of talking about it with each other and with Heidi and Jasmine and Layla, and just like being like, okay, how can we do this within like a day? A very common experimental film technique is superimposition, like images on top of one another. I mentioned we should do that. We should work with that in some way or another. And instead of waiting to like post production to do that, Layla was like, I have a friend who has a projector. We can project images like onto Nubia and Jean. So it was like that just happened to work out. I think we ended up with like 40 minutes of like footage that we had to get down to 5. And we were just like, how do we like this is impossible. And it was like insane, but because we were all so passionate within like a week, not even like within a day, we were all so passionate about this project. These people are giving you, like granting you the power to tell their stories. So you have to like do it well. It was a whirlwind of 4 weeks, but everything really just fell into place. Obviously, we had like budget, like constrictions, but I truthfully believe like budget constrictions like make the most beautiful things. You have this idea in your head, but you have to like bend it to fit what you have access to, what you have the budget for, and what you have the time for. And what's created from it usually is so much more than what you had originally thought of doing.
It's kind of like diamonds,
Yeah.
which are made under pressure, right? That's such a really beautiful, beautiful way to look at it, because in the film industry, you know, we talk a lot about that being something really challenging, right? We think about it as a challenge, is
Yeah.
the budget, is the funding, is talking about something that's controversial and like, you know, maybe not as understood, but you're here to say that this is actually one of the most beautiful things that can be made.
Yeah. And that's like what made me honestly fall in love with filmmaking and like production in general, is that like you prepare for the worst, and then when the worst is about to happen, you make something great out of it. It's just like the most self-fulfilling act, I feel like.
So you created this film, it's all edited, ready to go, ready for the showcase for Girls Voices Now. How do you feel about the authenticity of the voices as it turned out? And that was in 2018, right? Talk to me a little bit about what you wanted the audience to get out of the film then, and how, if anything, has it changed for you today? How you want people to see, or what you want people to get out of the film today in 2022?
I wanted people to be like profoundly moved, and I definitely feel like they were. I mean, I even watched this film now and I'm like, wow, that was really good, because those voices, like Jean and Nubia's voices, like really took center. And like, you just feel like, how in 5 minutes do you feel like you were able to get so like intimate with these two people? And that's exactly what I wanted and what we all wanted or envisioned for this film. And I feel like we were able to achieve that through like the intersectional lens of race and queerness and gender and all that. The two stories just work so well. I mean, we have Nubia talking about how she never felt like she got the respect she deserved in these club spaces. We have her talking about how she can't find the right shade of foundation at the store the way that white queens can. Then we have Jean talking about the political action that she has integrated into her drag performances. They're just like working in conversation with one another, it feels like. So what I wanted people to get out of that is that if you are like in any way subscribing to like drag, race, like culture, queer culture in any way, shape, or form, which you probably are because you're probably using like the lingo and the terminology, to just like know where it comes from, know that like Black and brown drag queens really are the root of all of this culture, this rich culture, and it has been preserved within the LGBTQ plus community. And I think today that's even more relevant. I mean, we have like Texas legislators who are trying to ban drag queens from being anywhere near children. And I think it's just like crazy that we're still like fighting back against these ideas that queerness and like drag is this like perverse thing. And really, I wanted this film to just like be a very intimate and emotional look into the world of these two people, to like show that this is a viable art form, like this medium should be respected, and it comes from a long legacy of Black and brown artists. The majority of audience members, they're going to be taking in this content in one way or another. If you're on social media, like you're probably going to come across like memes of these drag queens. You're going to subscribe to their content in one way or another. So just know where it comes from and respect those people. Also, I really was hoping like audience members would take from this that they can also be a part of this community. Like this community is not esoteric, like it's not just for queer people, and that gender expression is, like I said before, it's not this rigid system. It can be like amorphous, like you can play with it even if you're not queer. Those were definitely like the three main things I was hoping audiences would get out of it, and I feel like we achieved that to some extent.
I feel like it shines through within the film. Are you working on anything now?
I am in the like pre-development process of another social documentary right now about self-made maximal makeup artists, which the people who I've been in like in the pre-interview process with like are queer. This project itself, I really want to shine a light on like makeup as like a viable like artistic medium, the way that I also like we did for like drag as a viable like artistic medium. So there's like some crossover there, actually. I've gotten a few of my friends to agree to be a part of it who, like, for example, one of them, makeup is like a survival tool for them because they're like non-binary. And, you know, like some days they feel more feminine, some days androgynous, some days masc. And like makeup gives you the tools to reflect like your interiority in that way. And I think that's like a really amazing like element to makeup that people do not talk about enough, because we have like these like misconceptions about makeup, like, oh, it's just like they're preying on your insecurities or you're wearing it for attention. And for me, like that's just not the relationship I've had with makeup and what I've seen like my friends have with makeup, especially my queer friends. So that's a project that's like in the pre-development phase. I've taken a few screenwriting classes, so I'm in the works of doing a feature film screenplay. But that's really it. I haven't had like the opportunity to hold a camera in a while, which I really miss. I've done like amateur film like films for classes, but not in the same like regards as I did for the program. And I'm so excited to graduate and start like getting on production sets again. Like you have no idea.
You know, I have to say, I have to reflect back to you that a beautiful theme that I've realized in this interview with you is that you really reframed things that a lot of people think of as negative or as a challenge to something really positive, right? So right now with the makeup where you're like, you know, a lot of people could take it as like, oh, it's like a vanity thing, or it's like insecure people use makeup to like cover things, right? And you're looking at it this like as an opportunity, as a tool for expression and identity. And I just have to reflect back to you that it's just really beautiful. And the fact that you're taking that and putting it into film, I think is also beautiful.
Thank you. I agree. I think like filmmaking is like the perfect medium to monumentalize these things. In the pre like development phase of this project, like I'm doing research on like what documentaries have been made about makeup, and they're all about the whole vanity thing and like how beauty, like the beauty industry is like preying on all your insecurities. And I'm just like, there's like a whole nother world that we're not talking about. I feel like that's definitely my work ethic, is like seeing the positives to these things that society has conditioned a lot of people to view as a negative.
So for the last question, we have Girls Voices Now about to start this summer, and we're actually in our last week or two of getting applications in. For somebody watching this that is about to apply or is not really sure about applying to Girls Voices Now, what would you say about this experience?
Oh my gosh, there's so much to say about this experience. For me, I think it was like one of the most enthralling experiences of my life. And you're going to learn so many technical and narrative and storytelling skills that no one could ever learn within such a short time. It's so much hands-on experience that is transferable, that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. If anyone's like wondering if this is the right choice, I think if you have a love for media in any of its forms, or just entertainment in general, which is very broad, like music, fashion, whatever, or if you feel like you have a story to tell, then definitely apply. I think I went in this thinking that I didn't have a story to tell, thinking that like my voice really didn't matter, or that I wasn't going to make something that resonated with anyone. And within 4 weeks, found out that that was like definitely not the truth. You're going to meet so many great people that are going to teach you so many things that you will hold for the rest of your life. Something I got out of doing this program is like it solidified like my love of filmmaking and storytelling and creating social change through the cinematic mode. This wasn't just a supportive atmosphere, but like I was able to network with different people and get on production sets thanks to the people I talked to, and just get like that hands-on experience in the entry level jobs that you can put on your resume. Since then, I've been able to get career experiences that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And not to mention, I'm so sure that this program helped me get into Berkeley. Like, I think I was doing my application process like a month after. I talked so much about this and got so many scholarships, like especially scholarships for LGBTQ plus like students. So that helped, even being able to make coming to this school like a financial like possibility. It wasn't just like a self-fulfilling experience, but it helped me in my academic career, in my workplace career. It helped shape me as a storyteller, as an educator, as a filmmaker. Like, it was one of the greatest experiences ever.
I'm so happy to hear that. That's so amazing. Oh, and to think that there's, we don't know, like throwing shades when the first day you didn't know that that was what you were going to make, and to think that there's a whole other group of youth filmmakers who are about to embark on this journey, and who knows what films are going to be made out of this summer. So that's very exciting. Thank you so much for your time, Catie. You're amazing, very inspiring. And I hope that those who are listening to this are also just as inspired to go and create films about things that they're passionate about or want to explore more, or stories they feel like need to be told from a different perspective, from a reframing perspective. So thank you so much for this.
Of course, thank you.